no. Don't move. Climb up through the window right there. You can do it.
Let's talk about Leigh Whannell's new film, The Wolfman, which is sort of Leigh Whannell bringing the Universal classical monsters into a contemporary spin of sorts, right? And we saw Leigh Whannell do this with The Invisible Man, which came out a couple of years ago, and now we see it with the new film starring Christopher Abbott as Blake Lavelle and Julia Garner as Charlotte Lavelle. And this is a movie that I will tell you, I was excited for. I was pumped. It was a movie that was going to be like one of my most anticipated for sure, and I have some thoughts about it as well. You can go check out my review if you want, where there is no spoilers. Here we're getting into full spoilers, so you've been warned. Let's talk about Leigh Whannell's Wolfman. So the movie revolves around Blake Lavelle, and we see as he is a child and his father Grady Lavelle has sort of an overbearing relationship with him, and he's always pissed at him, it seems. But we see that the father has sort of become paranoid as there is something in the Oregon forest where they live, and what we eventually see in a hunting trip at the beginning of the film is a werewolf that's standing before them. And of course, at the time, Blake is young. He's not sure what he's seeing. The father says it's a bear, but later that night, he overhears the father talking to someone and talking about that he saw it again, that it was there, and he's trying to protect his child. Now, at the beginning of the film, we do see in the text that appears on screen that there was a hiker that vanished in 1995, I believe. So it is implied that he was taken by this werewolf, or he has become the werewolf as well. And so we see that Blake eventually does move away from Oregon and he goes to San Francisco. We see years pass and he eventually has a wife, a daughter, but then of course he finds out that his dad has disappeared sometime during this time. And when the movie eventually does get to this point in time, he does get the letter of decease of his father. So his father has passed according to the state of Oregon, although they never did find a body, they say. He decides to go back to Oregon to collect some of his father's stuff, and in this trip he takes his wife as well as his daughter with him. And when they arrive to Oregon, one of his neighbors, I guess you could say, or somebody he knew during childhood, decides to help them find the father's home, but then they are attacked by a mysterious creature, which is the werewolf that we saw at the beginning. What eventually does end up happening, however, is that the man that was leading them to the home of the father, he gets killed and taken by the werewolf, and then we see that Blake gets clawed at by the werewolf. So now he has a arm that has been clawed by the werewolf. It's starting to get disease looking, and they find the father's home and barricade themselves in it. However, Blake is now transforming into the werewolf before his daughter and wife's eyes. What we then find out as the audience is that the werewolf that was terrorizing them as they were making their way to the father's home and killed the person that Blake knew when he was a child was actually his own father. His father didn't die, didn't just disappear. They actually did become a werewolf. Seemingly they were attacked by the werewolf we saw at the beginning of the film at some point. But now Blake himself is becoming this same werewolf. Eventually he's able to defeat his father as he realizes that that is his father and kills him right then and there. But now he is becoming a threat to his own family as he is becoming more and more animalistic and can't really comprehend what's going on. It leads up into the final confrontation when the wife just has to shoot him as her and the daughter make it out alive till the next day. And that's where the movie ends. So I'm going to say it. I thought the movie was pretty quick in its way it presented all of this. It did have some time to breathe in some things, but in some aspects it didn't. And I think that that's what kind of hindered it with the emotional payoff that it wanted to have. No kidding. It did make me get a little bit teary, but I think it would have been a harder hit if they elaborated a little bit more and opened and fleshed out these characters a ton more, especially Julia Garner's character. But overall, I think that this is a movie with a lot of different interpretations. Let's start off with the werewolf curse, which can definitely be implied a familiar curse, a family curse of sorts, and not in the same way as, let's talk about it more in a way of values and upbringings, right? Because Blake left his father because he didn't want to sort of be with a person who was overbearing and sort of was leading with a strong fist, and he became a different father than his own father was when he had his own child. And you can see it in Blake at the beginning when he gets a little bit too impatient or testy with his own daughter. He sort of starts to retreat and he is trying to be better than his parents were. And you can almost almost see that like the werewolf curse of sorts, right? Because it's passed on, and eventually that person becomes like the other person was, and he's trying to break that familiar curse or family trauma of sorts, you could say. And then on the other side of things, you have what Leigh Whannell has talked about seeing a loved one sort of be despaired to a sickness, and we see it as this curse is overtaking Blake's body, and he is becoming something that his family doesn't recognize. He can't communicate back and forth with them. You can almost see it like a mental like breakdown of sorts, almost like an Alzheimer's dementia type vibe going for it, but also like a sickness that is just invading his body, and you see it deteriorating before you, and you're just helpless and watching, and it's just that horror, that tragedy that really elevates this film a lot. Like there are some things here and there, of course, that didn't really stick, and that's just because at the speed it's going, but I think overall the film does stick the landing for me. I think its message and everything is clear. It is just how fast it's delivered that's the problem. I think if they really gave time to flesh out all of these things, it would have really been much better. But overall, I still can't complain. I really like the film, and we really see that Blake used the last of his humanity by really implying like, I can't do this, like I can't go forth anymore like this, you just have to kill me. Almost gave me a vibe of The Fly of sorts, in which we see Jeff Goldblum's character really just say like, hey, this is it, I'm suffering, I don't know what comes after this, the animal inside of me takes over, and I don't want to be the one that like is the reason y'all die, right? So just ended things here for me. And that's the reason we see Julia Garner's character have to shoot Christopher Abbott's character at the end. And really a truly heartbreaking film about family trauma and seeing a loved one go down this path of disease, mental breakdown and stuff like that, and you feeling like you can't do anything, powerless, and just watching them deteriorate. Truly great film. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people didn't, but that's just me. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions on it, and if you're excited to see more of the Universal classic monsters. I mean, I'm curious. We're gonna have a film from James Wan next, which will be The Creature of the Black Lagoon. Very curious how he does that one. But as always, let me know your thoughts and opinion. Make sure you follow for more on all the things you love. I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe, stay positive.